Hello. So, today, I sat with my kids this morning. We decided that we'd do some art before we did other things. And they went through my box of cards and various other books. And this was one of the ones that everyone kind of picked out as they liked. And so, we had a go at doing the start of the painty stage. So these are the cards that we made today. And you can see we've kind of been working on, and we did these this morning, it didn't take us too long at all, working on mixing our colours, watery mixes and glazing over the top. And everybody's gone in different directions. Some people have got really different shapes and lots of colours, other people have got overlapped bits and not overlapped bits, and I think that they're going to be fab. And I wanted to just show you this first bit and the first step. I also wondered if you could tell which one was mine. Because I think they did really well. They've got some really nice watery glazes. So this is a palette that's just got some colour in, so I'm trying to use them up. So I'm just going to re-wet it a little bit. I'm going to start with whatever this colour is in here. And what you basically do is you add in some rounded rectangles. And you fill them in like that, make sure you've got a nice edge, and kind of, yep, just like that. You can then, if you want to, drip in another colour, just for some interest, and you want to put that in 3 or so other places. You can put them closer, you can put them further apart. I tend to stick with just a few, and I'm going to just see if I can get a little bit of, well, yeah, that looks quite fun. Just a little bit of texture, just for playing's sake. And another one maybe here. We talked a bit before we started doing this together about being mindful and how that can be really lovely and calming and kind of really focusing on your painting. We also talked about the fact that, you know, we can listen to music and have a chat as well if we want to. We don't, you know, sometimes we want one thing, sometimes we want another. It's a really nice way to connect. We started talking about all sorts of things, and then we all started to get quiet and focused and getting into what we were doing and really focusing on the paint and being present. We did move my heat gun to the kitchen table so we could dry it. That's what I'm going to do now, is just dry these. And so once that's dry, I pick another colour. We talked about how we pick colours, and we talked about picking colours that made up the first colour. So if we picked a purple, we might use reds and blues, or if we had picked a blue, we might choose to put yellows and greens with it. Wouldn't necessarily have all 3 of those primary colours together unless we wanted brown tones. It was really interesting to see though that one of my kids picked to put orange over blue, and he was really intrigued by how the orange changed and what glazing actually did, and how the colours still mixed by laying on top of each other. That's what we're doing now, is we're kind of glazing. When we're glazing, what we're trying to do is to stroke gently on the surface so that we're sitting the new paint colour kind of just on the top without disturbing the paint underneath. And you can see that I'm varying the sizes and the shapes of these and adding them in. And so next thing I'm going to do is just to drip some little bits here and just add these in. And then when I'm happy with how these are, I'm going to dry that layer as well. You can see here there's quite a bit of paint pooling, so I'm just going to twist the end here and I'm going to put it on. The key with glazing is to be gentle. If you don't have a heat gun, you could probably use a hairdryer. You could be very patient and let it dry. If I need to do that, I tend to do 3 or 4 different paintings at the same time, so that by the time the first one I'm finished with the last one, the first one has dried. So that layer is all lovely and dry, and you just keep doing this, layering up different layers. This is a really fun exercise if you want to try finding out what 3 different primary colours will make if you mix them. Now you can see on here I've got a kind of red, kind of blue, and now I'm popping on yellow. And when I'm doing that, you can see where it overlaps the blue, I'm getting a green, and you can see how I'm not disturbing the paint underneath because this is still staying a proper yellow. And then over here, if we pop some on, you'll get to see what it does on the red and the blue, and you can still see it's yellow, and you get kind of oranges forming and interesting things kind of starting to happen as they go on top of each other, depending on what order they've gone in, and you know how much paint is in the colour. Now I keep my colours fairly watery because I tend to find that it is easy when you're glazing, if they're fairly watery, to put paint on top of them. Otherwise you tend to lift it up a lot easier. And also you get to see how they look through each other more easily. So again, another layer to dry. There is nothing to say that you cannot go back now and add some of another colour again over the top, and you can keep glazing until you feel like it's finished. I'm going to add a little bit more of the red in there, and I think I might add a little bit of red here, and I may add a little bit here, and then I also may go in and grab a little bit of this blue, and I might put a little bit of blue here. See how that works, and I might put a little bit of blue maybe here, and I may put a little bit of blue here. Now it's just dotting it around until I feel like I'm done. I've got a few hairs collecting on there, so I'll get rid of those. I might make that one a little bit longer. And you get to see if you get a different colour if you put the blue on first, or the yellow on first, or the red on first. You know, does it make any difference to the kind of colour that you get? I'm feeling quite happy with that. There's no areas that are really drawing my eye and saying I need something more to me. Here I don't think, this was the last little bit there probably that I wanted to do anything. And these are quite watery, so I'm actually going to leave these to dry overnight and just let them do their thing rather than heat dry them, because I think I'll blow them everywhere. But that's what we did today, and we did this together at the table, enjoying just some nice time together. We put some music on for some of it, and we talked about the techniques a little bit, and the colours we were picking, and how to mix them up and make them watery. My kids are 11, 14, and well, my last one's not really a kid, but he'll always beat me, won't he? 17. Sat and did these. We haven't done watercolours for ages and ages, and they have their own preferences. A couple of them really love drawing and pencil drawing. One of my lads absolutely adores kind of the intensity of acrylics and inks and likes to use watercolours like that, and that can work. We talked today about how making it a bit watery might make it a bit easier for him to glaze on the top, but you know, he found his own way with it. And tomorrow we're going to go on to adding some of the little details that you can see on this one that has got kind of the pencil marks here with dashes. We've got some dots. There are some fine lines. We probably won't do those in paint tomorrow. We're probably going to just stick with pencils and pens, because they picked out the next one that they wanted to have a go at, which was something like this, which is from, well, the idea is from September's class, but it's not a lesson that's in there. So we're going to do something like this tomorrow. So we're going to create the painty boxy backgrounds. And I've got their folded little pieces of A4 ready for that. And we're going to try and do a little bit of painting every day together for the rest of this week, because it's a really lovely thing to share. It's quite soothing, quite calming, and we tend to do a little bit of breathing at the start, amidst much laughter sometimes, but when we're sensible about it, we do a little bit of breathing at the start, a little bit of relaxation if we need it, but actually just coming together around the kitchen table and doing something together that is kind of colourful and that we've picked together is really good fun. So that, coupled with board games, some movie watching, and our normal academics, is how we are spending our days at the moment. We've also been out into the garden. After work was done today, everybody had some strawberry ice cream out in the garden, and they've had lots of time to chat with friends, and they really, my younger two really enjoyed playing on, I think it's called Board Game Arena, where you can actually go and play board games online, and they were able to play with a group of friends, which they really enjoyed and had fun. I think they were playing something very similar to Uno. So I was sharing this for any of you who've got kids. You could have a go at this. If you've got very young kids, pick a piece of paper and maybe pick the colours together first and all use the same kind of colours, or have the 3 primary colours and do a layer in one of them, let it dry, do a layer in another one of them, let it dry, do a layer in another one of them and let it dry. So if you don't have a heat gun, a bigger piece of paper, you could get a nice focused, lovely kind of 10, 15, 20 minutes maybe to put the first layer on that, leave it to dry, and the next day come back and do the same again, and the next day the same again, and then the 4th day you could put on some marks and some patterns. As you can see, when the kiddos did it, they changed the angle of their boxes, they added different shapes. You see the triangles are in here. They used various colours and layered them up, and they also looked for shapes and symbols that they liked that they added in, and started to think about how those things worked. It really isn't about how fantastic it looks at the end, it's about the process of doing it together and the kind of mindful aspect that you tend to find comes with this kind of work. We did really find that we started off quite chatty, and then we quietened, but in a connected, lovely way. So maybe you'd like to have a go. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.